Hi everyone, welcome back to Needle Workshop. My name is Emily and I'm back today with a series of cosplay tutorials for a brand new costume. Anyway, ça finit là. So we recently published our first pattern from our Last Fable series, which is inspired by Cloud from Final Fantasy Advent Children. You can find the pattern along with the fully written tutorial available for download on our online store, which is linked in the description box below. The written tutorial also includes tons of info on how to properly measure yourself, how to print the pattern, along with material suggestions and the tools used in this tutorial. So yeah, we worked really hard on this, so please make sure to check it out. For this tutorial, please note that the seam allowance is 1 centimeter wide. You'll always be sewing 1 centimeter from the edge unless specified otherwise. Also, always make a mock-up before starting. This allows you to make sure that the fit is right for you, and it's better to mess up an inexpensive fabric than it is to mess up something you paid $20 a meter for. Also, this particular piece is probably the most complex pattern we've released so far, so it's good practice to make a mock-up first. We'd also like to thank Iwood Cosplay for collaborating with us on the production of this costume. I think the costume turned out amazing, it looks great on him, and we couldn't be happier with the result. So yeah, please make sure to check out his work. All the links will be in the description box below. And without further ado, did I break my nail? No? Let's get started! We're going to start off the tutorial by prepping all of our straps. Each strap has its own naming, and you can see through the visual diagram where each one will be set and through some patterning instructions. All the straps will be prepped in the same manner. There are actually only 3 sets of straps. The 4th one seen in here was later discarded. Right side to right side, fold the straps along the longest length and sew in place at one end and at the longest side. Cut off the excess fabric at the fully sewn corner. Turn inside out and iron flat. Sew a top stitch around all sides, but the end of the strap that has yet to be sewn shut. For this, we've opted to use a slightly contrasting gray denim thread to create a little bit of visual interest to our garment. Now that our straps are prepped, we can proceed to assemble the rest of our garment. We're going to start by prepping our big pocket bag. Take out the small pocket bag cut in lining fabric and the pocket bag facings. Make sure your facings are fully interfaced. To make sure you have the right facing matched up with the right bag, place the facing to the bag, wrong side to right side, and make sure the shapes match up properly. Then proceed to flip the facing so it's right side to right side and align the end notches of the facing to those of the pocket bag. Sew the facing in place with a straight stitch 1 centimeter from the edge. Fold the facing back to match up the shape of the pocket. Iron flat and top stitch in place. Set your pocket bags aside. Bring out your upper back leg piece. You'll need to start by closing your dart. Fold each pieces right side to right side and make sure to align the notches at the top. So from the notch to your punch hole. The punch hole is usually marked on the wrong side of the fabric, but I did make a small mistake here when I marked it on the right side. Once it's sewn, iron the darts towards the center back. Bring out your big pocket bag cut from the same self fabric as the pants, and right side to right side align it to the side seam of the pant leg. Make sure that the pieces are aligned at the top edge and that every notch at the side is properly aligned too. Sew from the top all the way down to the second notch. I would even suggest stopping 5 millimeters before the second notch. Set the back leg aside and bring out the upper front leg piece. We're first going to stitch in place our tuck pleat. Fold the piece onto itself, right side to right side, and align your notches at the top. Pin in place at the notches. Open back up your leg piece and fold the excess tuck pleats toward the center front. Pin in place. Sew in place with a straight stitch 7 mm from the edge. Bring back out your small pocket bag. Right side to right side, align it to the side seam of the pant leg. Make sure that the pieces are aligned at the top edge and that every notch at the side are properly aligned. Sew from the top to the bottom, making sure to stop 1 cm before the bottom. Now bring out both the back and the front legs we've just prepped with our pocket bags, and right side to right side, align around the pocket bag and pin in place. You'll be sewing from the top edge, starting at the notch, all the way to the side edge, sewing 7 mm from the edge. Once that is done, you'll need to sew all the rounded area of the pockets 1 cm from the edge. Next, overlock the rounded area of the pocket. Now that the pockets are secured together, we need to close the side seam. If everything was done properly, your pant leg should be looking a little something like this. Now put your back pant onto the front pant, right side to right side. Your front leg piece should be sandwiched between the pocket bags and the back leg piece at the side seam. If your piece does not fit well into place, remove some of the stitching at the bottom of the big pocket bag. I used my seam ripper to do this. This is also why I suggested to stop 5 mm before your notch a little earlier in the tutorial. Once you get your pieces to lay flat effortlessly, pin everything down and sew the rest of the seam in place, making sure to properly align your notches as you do so. You'll be sewing with a regular stitch 1 cm from the edge. Afterwards, also overlock all of the side seam to secure your seam allowance. Fold your seam allowance towards the back leg and iron in place. You'll need to top stitch your seam allowance in place. This is actually optional. It's mainly used to mimic a flat fail seam, but it's actually much easier to do than a flat fail seam. And with that, your pant leg is ready to have a thigh strap installed. Make sure to do both upper leg pieces, left and right side, before proceeding to the next part. On the right leg pant, mark the placement of the 4 corners of the cargo pocket along with the placement of the thigh strap. Positioning and markings are on the pattern pieces. Place your thigh strap along your markings, making sure to place the raw end of the strap 14 cm towards the back from the side seam. Pin in place. You'll need to stitch the strap in place using a zigzag stitch at the raw end and a straight stitch at the side seam and another one just inside the markings of the cargo pants. We'll be positioning our cargo pocket right here, but first, let's go prep it. We'll start by making the cargo pocket flap. Take both pieces and make sure to fully interface at least one of them. I've also marked the placement of my buttonhole. Right side to right side, position the flap pieces to each other and sew along the sides and at the bottom of the flap where the buttonhole placement is. Cut off the excess fabric at the corners before turning your piece inside out. You can use your scissors to carefully push the corners out. Iron your piece flat and top stitch all around the area that has just been sewn shut. Next, I'm going to overlock the top edge and sew the buttonhole. And with that, our flap is completely done. So let's set it aside for now. Here I have my cargo pants strip. The piece is fully interfaced and has 4 visible notches. To help with the upcoming process, on the wrong side of the fabric, I have marked both my seam allowance and the notches very clearly with a washable chalk on the edge with no overlock. I highly suggest doing this. It will make the upcoming step much easier. I've also sewn a reference line 9mm away from the edge along the same edge that has the overlock. I'm going to use this line as a guide to iron my edge inwards. This is what your piece should look like. Now take the cargo pocket piece and make sure it's fully interfaced. On the wrong side of the fabric, mark the seam allowance at the lower corners. In the center of the pocket, both at the top and bottom, you'll find 3 notches. Use these notches as a guide to properly pleat the pocket. Fold the pocket wrong side to wrong side at the outer notches and iron into place. Then take those folded lines and fold them once more towards the inner notch, right side to right side this time. Pin down and safe stitch in place at the top and bottom 7mm from the edge. Now that the cargo pocket prep is done, take your strip back out and start aligning the top edges right side to right side using your notches as a reference point. You'll be aligning the edge of the strip with no overlock. When aligning the corner of your pocket to the strip, make sure that your markings align perfectly. For the next part, I'm taking you with me to my sewing machine. I'm going to show you how to properly sew sharp corners. Starting from the top of your pocket, sew a straight stitch 1 cm from the edge all the way down to your marking. It's really important here to stop your needle exactly on the mark. Take a pair of scissors, or small cutters is actually much better, and cut into the strip towards the needle of your machine. You want to notch as close as possible to your needle, roughly 1 to 2mm away from the needle. This will allow you to turn your strip at a 90-degree angle to proceed with your stitching. Make sure to align your strip and pocket properly, and again, make sure those markings at the other corner are perfectly aligned. Repeat the same process at the other corner. Here's what the pocket looks like, but before we can proceed to turn it inside out, we'll need to overlock our freshly sewn edge first. This is optional, but I wanted to give my pocket a top stitch to match my flap. I'll be ironing the side seams in towards the pocket and the bottom seam out towards the strip. I'll then double top stitch my cargo pocket. Overlock the top edge of your pocket. Following your side notches, iron in the top of the pocket and strip and top stitch into place. Next, fold the top part of your strip in half, right side to right side, not taking into account the seam allowance. On the wrong side of the strip, we're going to stitch the fold into place for 4 centimeters of length, 8mm from the edge. Let's bring our right side leg pant back out. First, position the overlocked edge of the flap along the two top punch holes. The flap should be 1 centimeter wider than the punch hole markings. Secure in place with pins and sew in place 1 centimeter from the edge of the flap. Take your cargo pocket and align it to the flap. Pin the top of the cargo pocket in place. Earlier, we'd folded the edge in by 1 centimeter. We want to make sure to keep the fold folded as we continue to position our pocket. Use the punch holes as visual reference to help position your pocket. Keep in mind that your punch holes are 1 centimeter away from the edge. Pin the pocket in place all around before top stitching it into place. This top stitch should be as discreet as possible, so make sure to use a matching color thread. It'll be a little tough to top stitch at the top of the strip, but you should have a little bit of room to do so. Lastly, you'll need to sew in your button and top stitch the top of the flap down. And with that, the cargo pocket is done. You can put another one at the other side of the pants, but this is optional since the skirt panel will be hiding that side of the pants. You'll still need to put in the thigh strap though, so go ahead and do that if you haven't already done so. To finish up the upper pant legs, fold the front and back leg to each other, right side to right side, and properly align your inseam. Sew in place with a straight stitch first, and then finish it up with an overlock. Finish placing your thigh strap by stitching it in place at the inseam and at the back, making sure to overlap it over itself. You have notches on the inside that serve as guides to properly place the strap, but you can also refer to your pattern. Also make sure that you give it a diagonal stitch to help it fall stylistically. Make sure to finish the other pant leg in the same manner. Just omit the cargo pocket if you find it annoying and pointless to have one on the left side of the pants. Time to move on to the closure. Start by prepping your overlap. Make sure your piece is fully interfaced. Fold the overlap in half, right side to right side along the longest length, and sew the button edge shut. Turn your piece inside out, iron flat, and overlock your longer raw edge. Set the piece aside. Prep your facing by making sure your piece is fully interfaced and overlocked all around with the exception of the top edge. Overlock both the left and right leg crotch area. Align both crotch area right side to right side. To do so, turn one of your pieces inside out and slide it into the other leg piece and proceed to align the two together at the crotch. Make sure you align all of your notches as you do so. Once you have everything pinned down, sew the two pieces together starting at the center back all the way to your front notch. Make sure to stop your stitch exactly at the front notch. Right side to right side, sew the facing to the right leg pant at the center front. Make sure your pieces are properly aligned at the waist. You also want to make sure to sew all the way down, making sure not to catch the left pant leg as you do so. If you are scared to sew into the left pant leg, you can sew at 9 millimeters past the front notch. Next, you'll be sewing the facing to the seam allowance at 1 millimeter from the seam. Make sure you sew all the way down. Place your zipper next to the overlock of the overlap. Note that the overlock should be at the left side when doing this. Your zipper tape should be about 2 millimeters over the top edge of your overlap. And sew just along the edge of the zipper tape to secure it in place. The key here is to make sure that the zipper stays perfectly straight while being stitched down. Position the left pant leg to the edge of the zipper, right side to right side, and sew together. Make sure they are evenly aligned at the waist. Switch your machine to the zipper foot. Sew the left pant leg in place by sewing 7 millimeters from the edge of the pant. Okay, once again, push any excess fabric out of the way before continuing your stitch all the way to the end of the overlap. Make sure to move your carrier out of the way as you go. Make sure not to catch any excess fabric in your stitch. If you've done everything right, you should have about 5 millimeters between your facing and freshly sewn zipper. Top stitch your fabric in place 1 millimeter from the seam. Place your overlap over the zipper and pin in place temporarily. Flip the fabric out of the way and pin your facing to the unsewn zipper tape. Make sure to keep your zipper tape parallel to the side of the facing. Remove your temporary pin. Using your zipper foot, sew the zipper in place 7 mm from the edge. Now we're mostly just missing the top stitch on the facing. Place your facing properly over the zipper and temporarily pin in place. Making sure you are catching only the facing while pinning down the leg, top stitch the facing. You can feel your facing through the layer of your pants and use that as a guide to get the right shape. Stop your top stitch before your underlap, about 5 mm from the crotch seam. Lastly, stitch the bottom part and make sure to catch all of the layers this time. You also want to stitch the inside layers at the bottom. Make sure to catch your underlap and facing only. I was not 100% happy with this shape, so I went ahead and gave it a quick correction. We all make mistakes sometimes. Now I'm happy to tell you that this was probably the worst parts of the pants and they are all finally over. So now let's move on to putting in our waistband. Start by prepping all of your belt loops. For more info on that, please check out the link tunic video tutorial. Place all of your belt loops to their respective notches, right side to right side. For more info, please refer to the pattern. Stitch in place 7 mm from the edge. Take out your waistband piece and make sure it is fully interfaced and that it is properly overlocked along the inner hem. Please refer to your pattern if you are unsure which side is the inner hem. Fold along the longest length right side to right side and sew both ends shut 1 cm from the edge. Turn your piece inside out, fold in half and iron flat. Pin the raw edge of the waistband to the pants waist, making sure to properly align all of your notches. Sew in place with a straight stitch 1 cm from the edge. Next, iron your seam allowance of the waistband and pants up towards the waistband and fold the overlocked edge over the waistband. Pin in place, make sure that everything is well ironed down, and top stitch all around your waistband. For the final finish of the waistband, you'll need to add a snap or a set of clasps. You'll also need to fold the top of each belt loop in by 1.3 cm and top stitch them into place. Right side to right side, align your lower front and back pants legs to each other at the outseam. Sew in place with a straight stitch and overlock. Iron the seam allowance towards the back leg and top stitch in place. This is to properly match up with the upper pant legs. Sew the front and back right side to right side at the inseam, first with a straight stitch and then with the overlock. Overlock your hem and then, using your notches as a guide, fold your hem inwards. Top stitch in place. Gather the other end of the lower pant leg. Please refer to our video on how to gather for more info on the subject. Properly match up your lower pant leg with the proper sides of the pants. For example, your stitches should match up properly, and if they don't, that means you might have made a little mistake. Gather or ungather as needed until the length of the lower legs matches up with that of the pants. Right side to right side, align the edges together and pin in place. Make sure your inseams and outseams are properly aligned. Sew in place with a straight stitch followed by an overlock. To attach the knee straps in place, just repeat the same steps as when you attach the thigh straps. Now let's move on to our last set of straps. Using the provided blueprint, measure out the length you'll need, adding an extra 1 cm to 1.5 cm to fold in at the raw edge. You'll also have the eyelet placement clearly indicated on the blueprint. I'm personally using the prototype blueprint, so yours will look much cleaner. Now place your smallest buckles as shown in the video, both facing in opposite directions. You'll need to place a female snap on the wrong side of the strap, right above the buckle located closer toward the center of the strap. Bring your pants back out and make sure to mark all of the necessary placements. Use your pattern to do so. We're first going to stitch in our Velcro pieces on the lower part of the leg. Just make sure to match up the female and male Velcro pieces properly. These Velcro pieces were added to help keep a nice fold in the pants so that they always look crisp and clean. Place the matching male snap right below the lowest Velcro, right at the top of your fold. Last but not least, you'll need to stitch the top of the strap to its marked location. Keep in mind the marked location is actually the placement of the buckle and not the top of the strap. Now pin in place and sew. I personally opted to sew them in by hand to keep the stitch as discreet as possible. The reason for this slightly odd design is so that the straps are A, easy to assemble and beginner friendly, and B, so that they can be unsnapped out of place so the pants can be more easily ironed out after a few usage. And with that, the pants are done. So congratulations, because this was the hardest pattern we've ever put out. So give yourself a high five and a solid pat on the back. Alright, so I hope this video tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them in the comment section below. If you like this kind of content, then please make sure to give it a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of all our upcoming cosplay tutorials. If you'd like to know more about our upcoming projects, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Now, once again, we'd like to take the time to thank Lorentz for taking a chance on working with a really small, unknown business such as ourselves. It's super appreciated and we're really happy with how everything went. And yeah, with that, until next time, good luck with your projects, guys. Bye bye.